Are we live?
We are live.
Let's do this.
Welcome to Two Queens and Crystal Things. This is the podcast where we are on some manifest your life, shift your mind, and raise the consciousness type of shit. I'm Christy.
And I am Mia. I like to sing my name. And you can consider us your spiritual girlfriends for the next hour or so.
Hour plus.
Last week we did a deep dive, a little bit more into our spiritual journeys. And we talked about, why do we do the work that we do, and what it's like being a spiritual entrepreneur. It was kind of a part two to the first episode that we did. We talked about it. So we got a little bit more into our business. Mm-hmm. We hope that you guys enjoyed that.
Yes.
And Christy.
So a few episodes back, we talked about doing more interviews on our podcast with people in the spiritual world. And so today is a very, very, very special episode, making this our second interview.
Yes.
I am so excited. Actually, we are so excited to have our very special guest with us this evening. So, Mia, would you like to introduce?
Okay. So, let's just say, all healers need healers. Yeah,
yes.
We need a tribe to help us get through this.
Yes.
So I'm going to introduce to you Jessica Oberhausen, and she actually is an Akashic Record reader, among many other things, which we'll discover today. We're going to talk about this. But this is how we were introduced to her.
Yep. And
so when I need some help understanding my records, Jessica comes through like a beast.
She is the truth, you guys. The truth.
So I'm going to give the definition of Akasha, but I want Jessica to for real break it down about what it is. The Akasha is Sanskrit for the word ether, which is one of the 5 elements, spirit, you guys get it. So the Akashic Records are basically your energetic database. Where all your soul's journey, where your past, present, and future possibilities are held. So, an Akashic Record reading is a soul reading. And actually, Jessica was the one who was telling me that I'm going to be an Akashic Record reader, so she kind of helped that out. So it's a process where you're tapping into your accessing your soul's unique vibration history in your records. So, Chrissy, let's welcome our wonderful friend Jessica.
Oh my goodness. Welcome, Jessica. We are so happy to have you on Two Queens and Crystal Things. So basically just how this evening will go is we'll have a series of questions to ask, and in our true Two Queens and Crystal Things fashion, which you've already experienced, we will simply discuss and just have a good time. So
let's get this started. So first, okay. I let me put on my open self. So Jessica, darling. So I wanted you to give us a little bit about yourself. So if you don't mind, tell us your age, your sun sign, your rising sign, and the first thing you do in the morning, and one thing that you're proud of yourself for. I know it's like, I'll be happy to repeat if you forget. So your age, sun sign, rising, first thing you do in the morning, and one thing that you're proud of yourself for.
Okay. I am 28 years old, and my sun sign is Taurus. My rising sign is Cancer.
I knew it.
And let's see the first thing I do in the morning, it depends. I don't want to say it, but I feel like usually I get on my phone.
That's fair.
But lately I feel like I've been doing it
on your phone.
Lately I feel like it's been more positive. Like I'll pick up my phone and look at messages and kind of like emails that have come in, but I don't answer those right away. I give myself some space now. Usually I open TikTok first actually, and I get myself laughing, or I get a tarot reading.
I heard TikTok is hilarious.
TikTok is like the last safe place left on the internet.
Really?
Like, at least that's how I feel.
That is so crazy.
Do I need to get on TikTok? I just go on Jay's account.
Right.
It's so fun. And I think, too, it depends on what you follow. Like, I feel, we all need a break from the politics. We all need a break from the fighting, from the public shaming, cancel culture, all of that. And so I feel like, especially because TikTok, just like Tumblr, I actually like Tumblr a lot as well. I don't use it as much anymore.
I used to be on Tumblr.
But Tumblr's nice. Yeah.
I thought it died.
I used to really like Tumblr.
Yeah.
Wow, I thought it died too.
A lot of my favorite users don't use it anymore, so I feel like it is kind of dying, but it's a nice place because I feel like the best social medias for me are the ones where like there's no one I know on it, and I love everyone I know, but I feel like it's nice to not have another like social expectation on top of your social media. Like I feel like it's so nice to just go on and be anonymous on TikTok and anonymous on Tumblr.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually I'll go on TikTok and either there's like a tarot reading and someone wants to tell me that like everything's going to be successful and awesome and that all the people who wronged me are going to apologize, and then I'm like, great, I can start this day. Or I'm just laughing at like some kid like falling down the stairs, you know. It's
Oh my god.
That's all right.
and so usually I'll like scroll, find a TikTok that's really funny, and then I jump out of bed to my husband Kevin, and I'm like, look, you have to see this.
Which, by the way, her husband is amazeballs. Kevin is a very, very, like, I don't know how you two spiritual people found each other, but it definitely gives you hope. That, what does that say? There's a pot for every lid. They're like really, they have a nice little vibe with each other. It's really beautiful.
I love a good vibe.
Oh, it's really true, and I feel, and that's something that everyone could have, by the way. And I feel like the records are a part of opening people to that. Like I feel like a lot of times when I'm doing readings, like there's a person who will be with somebody who, and they're accepting 30 to 50% of what they really want in a partner, but they're like, but they're nice, but they kind of don't show up to things, and it's like, you know, but they're smart, but they kind of forget really important stuff to me, and so they you know, they kind of go back and forth, and they're accepting a lot that really doesn't resonate with them because there is the good, and you know, I feel like a lot of people who are drawn to this kind of work are people that are the overgivers, the light workers, the helpers, the empaths. So they, you know, they want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but then a lot of times they're not getting like their happiness out of the situation. So the records are like, no, you have a soulmate.
The men, we're gonna talk about that too.
Yeah.
Wait, don't forget one thing you're proud of yourself for. And if you don't say, okay, if this is your proud moment, then because I'm going to bring it up anyway. So go ahead.
You know, I'm really grateful that actually you're asking me to say this, because last night I was talking to Mia and and I was like telling her that I was like worried that I was being lazy right now because there's still touch-ups on a movie that I made that I need to do, and I was worried
a movie.
A whole movie, y'all.
and I was worried I was being lazy, and she was like, hold up. Lazy? You made a whole movie, so
a 2-hour movie. She acted in it, directed it, casted it, wrote it, edited
Some of us complain to just post something on IG.
Ding ding ding. Are you calling me out? Like
Oh no. Never.
A whole movie, and she submitted it to Sundance. Okay, sorry. Keep continuing. So I'm really excited for her because it's a kick-ass movie. Continue.
Thank you. And yeah, and so Mia spent a lot of time last night gassing me up and making sure that I'm gassing myself up. Yep.
Go, Jessica.
And you know, I came out of the bedroom after getting off the phone with you, and I was like beating my chest, and I was like, Kevin, do you realize that we made a movie? And he's like, yeah, I do. Like, where are you? He's the one who's kind of trying to remind me that we're doing a lot, because we have our own businesses. Like, both of us have spiritually based practices. And then, so yeah, I'm very proud of myself because a movie idea came to me. I've been an actor since I was born. Because, like, I was a really good liar when I was a kid because I was like trying to get out of trouble. And
life is a stage.
But I loved playing pretend, too. And I feel like this is just these tend to be really good clues for, like, what we're good at and, like, what our soul purpose is. Because I would be a 7-year-old and I saw Harriet the Spy and I was inspired. I'm like, she is a writer. She is a sneak. She is empowered. And so I would, like, get the little composition notebook and I would, like, crouch down on my stairs and, like, spy on my mom in the kitchen pretending I'm in someone else's house, and I'd be like, I don't know what this lady is up to, but she is guilty. And like and so yeah, I've been an actor my whole life, but then when I decided to actually pursue it, and especially pursuing film, there's great roles in theater for women, but film roles,
hint,
especially in like independent film, There's not a lot. It's really slim pickings. And so I realized that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm out here like having anxiety and like a self-esteem like low point over a role that I don't even want. That's like someone's girlfriend who's just like, oh, she's just there to be bitchy, you know, to empower the man. And so to motivate the man to leave. And so I was just kind of like, okay, I want to write my own stuff. And like, I always wanted to write like a sci-fi as well too, because I never considered myself a sci-fi fan. Until I watched this movie called Another Earth, which is a Sundance film that came out in 2011. It is fantastic.
Yeah, I need to write that down. Another Earth. I need to watch this.
Yeah, it is. It's so profound. It really is, and I feel like that's what a lot of sci-fi is missing. Like I used to think that sci-fi was the worst. It's just like robots shooting each other. Right. It felt so soulless. And then I saw this movie.
So it's like spiritual sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's really what. Like, I feel like that's kind of like the highest purpose of sci-fi at the end of the day, is to ask us who we are in all these different situations. Because that's what the soul does, really.
Okay, so I have a question. So what is the Akashic Record? Can you explain to our listeners?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Actually, that definition is really good. And so that's how I've described it, is like, if you think of it as the universe preserves everything, like throughout time, that it's just constantly kind of taking photographs of everything, that it's like that library exists and always has existed and always will exist. And so we're tapping into that library. So you can think of it as, now we're like, when I'm doing a reading for you or you're reading yourself, you're going into the wing of that library that is your specific soul's journey. And so if you can imagine, all kinds of rooms and books, and every book that you can pull off of that shelf is going to have information about you, about an experience that you had as a person, as a like interdimensional bodiless being. Like there's so many ways to experience things. There's even people who have incarnated as trees and whales. And
that is so
it's
cool.
so interesting. And so I think it helps you come back to your everythingness, because that's everything. We are everything, and it's
this
like
is true.
And I feel like the records have really helped me understand that.
We've had this conversation before. We were talking about I feel like the purpose of life is to figure out what we can be.
Yep.
Like we can be like we can be anything. So I love the idea that we're able to go back and tap into everything that we've been, because then I feel like it reinforces the idea that we're limitless. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like this
Facts.
This right here, this moment in time, it's like I could create anything in this moment in time, in this body, in this space, in this time, because I've been everything and I am everything. So I'm a big fan. Big fan. So wait, but I do want to stop, take a step back. So yeah, I want you guys to hear how wise this woman is at 28.
Who made a movie? Right. A freaking movie, not a TikTok. A movie.
And just her understanding of her connection to everything, that that we all are a part of everything. So I want you to talk about your spiritual journey a little bit. And has this always been a part of, who you are? Was there something that kind of kicked it off? Or, tell me about your spiritual journey a little bit and tell us about it.
Oh, I really don't think about this much at all. I feel like my spiritual journey started after leaving college. And I feel like that's because it's the first time that I was really authentic to myself in a way that I had to be courageous, because no one else in my life was making that choice. I was like, I guess I had kind of one other person who helped me have the confidence, because they're just like, oh, I'm taking a gap year, figuring it out. I'm like, I need that. And because I all through high school, I did acting, and it was just the best thing ever. And now I realize that even that is very spiritual. I feel like it's like, if you're able to embody someone and honor them in such a way, it's like that's what the soul does, is it embodies a personality and honors them.
Oh, I like that.
And so I noticed that with the plays that were really good, especially the ones I was doing in high school. Like I'm so grateful. We had such a kick-ass program, like for a high school, small town high school.
Wait,
like
what high school did you go to?
Morris High School.
Morris High School. Oh, I do remember us talking about this. That is south of Kankakee, right?
I think so. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Me and Matt.
A little bit outside of Chicago, south of Chicago, maybe about an hour south of Chicago.
Like hour and a half south like Southwest.
I-57.
It's
like I-57 or is there towards
no
Joliet?
55 to 80 West.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like 20 minutes southwest of 80.
I try to know stuff. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
But yeah, it's not the smallest town in the world. I think it's like 17,000 people or so, but like it's small enough. And so yeah, we had a kick-ass program there, and like I just had a really, really wonderful female role model there who like, she led the theater program. She is just amazing. Like I feel like that's something that's so invaluable as a girl, is to have a female role model that does not back down, that has good self-esteem, and that and just really wants to do a good job at the end of the day. So I feel like actually really things started there, because that's like the first time in my life where I really started feeling valuable and powerful. And then I came out of that, and then I went to college, and I kind of felt like things were going downhill a bit. I didn't have as strong of directors. Like, they just didn't have a vision. They didn't have any passion, really. And so then I could feel when I went to a junior college, and I was going to transfer to a 4-year school. And this is, I feel like, my first where my gut just slammed on the brakes. And I had scholarships set up. I did auditions for them. Like, everything was set up, and I couldn't send them $200 for my housing deposit. And like my gut slammed on the brakes and was like, "You are not going here. 5-year-olds know how to act. Why are you going to school for acting? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, go out and pursue. Do not pay people to not pursue." Like,
I'm sorry, I have to give a eyeball to somebody real fast. Chrissy, I'm sorry, I can't see. You've gone down low. Did you hear what she said?
I'm cleaning the keyboard. I'm meditating.
Just my journey, by the way. It's like
we appreciate this. Go ahead.
Okay. Because I also know fabulous people who went to college and went through that experience, and they would never trade it for anything. So I'm like, yeah, just personally for me, my soul just started talking to me. It was like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And kind of even helped me understand that I was going downhill a bit as an actor, because when you don't have strong directors around you and strong visionaries, then you kind of start getting passes at being not as good, and everyone's applauding you. You win all the awards.
It's very dangerous, and it's so easy to stay there.
And
I'm so glad your soul tapped your ass.
Yeah.
Tap tap.
Yeah, and so I realized, like, looking back, I'm like, I won a lot of awards that it's like for getting the highest C in the class. Like, I was not growing anymore, and so like I'm glad. So I got out of that and just decided I was going to move to Chicago and pursue acting, especially acting in film, because that's what I wanted to do. But they don't really have that in college. It's all theater, and I was kind of getting tired of that, because like, when you guys see the movie The Time Maker, you'll see like I like things very understated, and understated is not theater unless you have a really, really intimate black box. And so I was just moving more towards what I actually wanted to do. But when I moved to Chicago, there was nothing. Like, I just was, I was trying to get these roles that I was not even passionate about, and then I really hit like a depression. It was really hard, and also seeing yourself on camera for the first time, like I felt like my face was so round, and it was, I had put on a bit of weight. I feel like that always happens in times in our lives where we're feeling insecure. It just can really come on as this like kind of padding or a defense mechanism. And I wasn't allowing myself to just be vulnerable and be like, this is scary. I was just like, everything's under control. I am perfect. And, so that's like a lot of us do that, though.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's really where I found spirituality, is because I wasn't in a play every single day of my life. Like, I didn't have an outlet, and I was kind of starting to go a little bit crazy. Like, I just didn't feel good. I was really depressed. And so then I ended up like reading spiritual books, and like my mom had got me into Louise Hay, and then I was like, through that and like doing those affirmations, I swear it really helped attract like my first like role in like a feature film. But I had to wait a bit for that. I got cast like a couple months out of like leaving college, but then the movie got pushed, and so I had to wait like 9 months for it. And so it was like in that space where I was like, I'm dead. Am I even alive? If I'm not an actor, who am I? Which is very much like, now I see very much reflected in Time Maker, because in that movie the schools are closed and she's an actor and like has no outlet. And so it was like I read this book. It's called Psychic Intelligence by Linda and Terry Jameson, because I was actually watching a lot of TV, and I was watching like the Tyra show or something, and they had the psychic twins Linda and Terry Jameson on, and they said they're Akashic Records readers. And that was the first time I ever heard that term, and it's interesting now with like what I do for a living that's kind of the first like moment of my spirituality. So I ordered their book off of eBay and read it, and I like finished it, and I usually don't finish like a lot of books either, and I finished it and like hugged it, and I'm like, everything makes sense. They talked about numbers having meaning, they talked about spirit guides and angels, and basically like you not being a bad person for existing. I mean, I feel like it's a huge part of spirituality is like acceptance of yourself and of your life's path.
That's the thing.
Yeah, so that was really what got me on track with that. And then I ended up taking, I used a word that I learned in that book around one of my sister's friends, and she was like shook. I used the word claircognizance, and she was like, you and I, like, we need to talk. And so she showed me like Doreen Virtue stuff, like her angel stuff is like really great. And I know she doesn't do it anymore, but it's still fire.
Oh my God, I got a bunch of, yes. You're absolutely right.
Is
yes.
great.
Yeah.
I like go to sleep and I listen to her angel meditations. They're so good. And then she ended up saying like, oh, I feel like you need to do Reiki, and like sent me a link to Equilibrium Energy and Education's like website, and I saw they had like a free event, and I went there, and then they were using science to explain these spiritual things, and that really helped me because I grew up doubting a lot, and so I was that kid who was like, oh, I'm smart enough to figure out that Santa isn't real, and like, you know, physics, and so I was that kid where it's like I would rather be right than like be happy sometimes. And so going there, they connected the science in.
I'd rather be right than be happy. Ooh, child. I have done that sometimes in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm still working on releasing that.
I'd rather be happy. I don't give a fuck about it. Right? But I have definitely been like, no, I want this righteousness. But go ahead.
Yeah. And so then going there, everything clicked for me. And then I worked there for 4 years. And so I did Akashic Records training. I got my Reiki Master Teacher training. I did Bankston Method training. Like, I did everything.
See, she did a lot of training too.
Yeah, and I feel like, well, interestingly enough, I feel like training, it's just the type of person that you are. Like, I feel like...
See?
I actually love that about her. I really do, because Christie's so much like that. Am I cocky that I just feel like I can figure shit out myself? Because that's some shit
no, not at all.
Because I'm like, I feel like I could read a book and understand.
You could.
And now I'm like, oh, I'll just go ask my guides. What do we need to know? Give me 5 minutes. Oh, this is what that means. But yes, but no, I do get that. I really.
Not everyone is there, Mia.
No, but even before, I do understand I think there was a part of me that believed I would look at I'm always considered a source. So when I'm going through things, and so I would go to, try to, and I'm kind of, even this is happening when I went to therapy. I'm sitting there and I'm one of those people who think I'm so intelligent, like I'm so highly intelligent, and I would think like, if you're not smarter than me, I do not think like this now, guys. I'm just saying. But if you're not smarter than me, then what am I sitting up here talking to you?
Oh, yeah.
You can't teach me.
I actually, yeah.
So if I can figure it out before you get to the end of it, which I didn't know at the time was my gift. Because I can, like, you start, I'm like, oh, okay, I finished it. But I just like I said, I just thought I was really intelligent. So I do... I do understand that, but it's always considered a source. So when I do go to people, like I trust Christy to do healing on me. I love when Jessica does my readings, because I still have that thing in me. It's like, where is it coming from? Where is the information coming from? What's their intent behind it? What is the, and who is their source? That's why I tell people all the time, when you get readings from people, you need to ask people what their source is.
When you get who?
Readings from people. Oh, readings. And you're allowing them in your energy.
You're right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I say that to people when I get readings from me, they're like, oh, God, that's a good guy. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you just don't let anybody all up in your stuff and tell you about, to tell you about yourself. But yes.
Yeah, and let me add with that, too. if someone is telling you in a reading that you can't do something, that something bad is going to happen to you, or that is not a real reading. And even like the records, like they've even described it in like the information coming through as like if someone is doing readings like that, it's because they don't have confidence in it. So of course they can just trigger fear in you. They can inspire fear in you, and it gets a reaction, and so it can make it feel real to you. But it's like, wow. And so it's like it's harder to make someone feel good without being specific, and so, but it's easy to make someone feel bad.
That's a good
scared.
point.
Yeah.
So are you saying that most readings should be positive?
Yeah, like, I feel like it doesn't have to be like, oh, you're going to get everything that you want and everything's perfect. Because, I mean, there's a lot of times when I'm doing readings for people and it's like, like, this isn't the person they're with is, like, not the person that I see them with. And so sometimes you do deliver information as a reader that's not what the readee wants to hear.
There you go. That's the difference.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
But it's framed in such a way of, like, you are accepting a guy who hurts you, who betrays you, who doesn't respect you, who doesn't even see you fully. And so they recommend, and it's never like you have to leave or you're fucked or like, oh God, like you're gonna go through a divorce and it's gonna suck. It's like, you know what? It's like, just pay attention to how this person reacts to you. And like, that's something they do a lot is they'll plant that seed is they're like, okay, just, like I've read for somebody where their partner wasn't respectful of like their spirituality and what made them happy and excited. And like, and so they were like, okay, well, when you bring these things up to him, just pay attention to how he reacts. Pay attention to how he treats you. Yeah. And then they're like, and ask yourself if that's what you want. Ask yourself if you're feeling respected, something along those lines. And then she came back to me and she was like, I paid attention, and like that there was no, like, he had said to her like, I'm trying, because she had this Akashic Records reading with me, and then she went to him and was like, oh my God, it was so exciting and this and that, and he's like, I'm trying really hard to feel happy for you, but I just can't. And, and so rejecting, rejecting that.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that readings should be positive, but I don't think...
Sometimes you gotta hear the truth.
It's I think there's honesty and truth, but I do think that it's just, there's an opportunity there. So it's not, so I feel like, spirit guides are going to say, well, basically your life is fucked, so I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's going to be like, look at, like, it's more like, for me, and what you guys think, it's more like, I'm trying to show you the grandness of who you are, and right now you are at 5% of what you could be, and, like, this is who you are. So it's not like, you know what I mean? So it's not necessarily a positive thing, but it is like it's an empowering thing.
Yes, that's the perfect word to use. Is like, you should always leave a reading feeling empowered.
Yes,
you should always feel like you're in the driver's seat, not like, oh well,
that makes complete sense.
I tell people that all the time. You're in the driver's seat.
But like even if it's with shit that, excuse you, I do curse on occasion. But even if it's with shit that you don't want to hear. Yes. You kind of have like a plan, like, okay, this is what I should have been doing, so okay, let me get my shit together.
Yep. Yeah. Because you're good. There are definitely times you're gonna hear stuff that you don't. Ooh.
Yeah. And that girl I was speaking about, she went and got herself a way better boo. Yeah, and like, and there's the commitments there and all that.
Like she said, my boo is coming. Sorry.
So, in what way? So it just sounds like because of a certain place you were in, you're kind of depressed, that this kind of led you into where you are now as far as reading Akashic Records. So how has being able to access your Akashic Records, how has that been able to assist in your spiritual journey?
Oh, so much. And, and I'm grateful to have people around me who remind me to use it. Because I feel like, and this is something that comes up in the records all the time, is we all have our superpowers, but it tends to be the empaths, perfectionists, overgivers, like that category. I need to find a word for it. Lately they've been calling these people the super helpers. And are kind of like the most high functioning person, like in the family, like when you grow up, the super givers, the overgivers. And that group of people tends to have awesome superpowers, just as everybody does, and then they give it to everybody but themselves. Ooh. And at the end of the day, they are too tired to even give it to themselves because they've given so much.
Or they don't even know that it's necessary to give to themselves. Like, I honestly think I've met so many amazing, beautiful, powerful women who have no idea that what they're giving out, if they give to themselves, how it completely changed their life.
Yeah.
And then just even saying it, and they're like, but wait, hold on, what? Like, all that energy that you're, that output, pour back in your cup as I drink my wine.
Your arms look good, by the way.
My friend got me in the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning.
They're beautiful.
Her arms look good. I'm always like, oh my gosh, your eyebrows look so good.
Thank you.
What was it? Oh, so using the Akashic Records in my own life. And, so when I remember to use it, it is like, it's just the most amazing thing. Especially, too, because, like, in the moments where I'm so anxious, I am freaking the frack out.
Oh my God, do you not curse?
Oh, no, can I say fuck?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah! Okay, fuck. Okay, so when I'm freaking the fuck out, I love to curse, but, like, just try to be mindful.
We curse.
Be you.
Great.
Be you, boo.
You, boo.
I love it. Okay, so when I'm freaking the fuck out, and then I can just go open my records. And it's so interesting, too, because I feel like sometimes they even help me cry, because usually I'll just be, I don't know, sometimes I can, like, fume and then, like, spiral, and I'm not crying, and I feel like once you cry, then it kind of starts to come out of you instead of, like, the spiraling. And so usually I start crying, and then I open the notes app on my phone, and I just start typing away, and usually it's like, you did nothing wrong, it is cool, no one hates you, like, it's just like those reminders. And so I feel like it's just being able to tap into whatever you need. And then in context of the movie that I wrote, the idea came to me before I started reading records, but couple months before, like it was not long. And I remember
the idea of the movie?
Yeah, the idea of the movie. And I remember thinking like that movie Another Earth, I was like, I want to create intimate, beautiful, soulful sci-fi. And I just remember when I put that out there, all of a sudden in my head, I see this little glass vial of liquid. And I just was asked, and I just knew what it was for. It's very much like records information. It's like a lot of times for me, the way the information comes up is I have visuals, and I just know everything about it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the hardest part for people is to trust in their knowing, because they're getting it, but knowing it's the least tangible thing. And so when you feel it in your body, or when you see it, or when you hear it with your clairaudience, like in your spiritual ear, or when you hear it in your mind, or when you see it in your mind, it's a bit more tangible. But the knowing is, I feel like, one of the least trusted in aspects of the records.
But how did you get to that point? Because you weren't always there, right?
No. And, but I feel like it's something, I feel like records is kind of like learning a language, even though I guess I haven't ever learned a language, so this could be wrong, but it's like that there are just some people that when they start speaking another language, some people click really fast, and some people they have to study and really spend the time with it. And then, so I think I do feel like I clicked really quickly with it, but I did hide it for a long time because I was worried I wasn't good enough at it. And so then I was just kind of like reading for people here and there.
I'm like, ding, ding, ding.
Charging $20.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That was me. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. And also, people, there's that, for me, it was the fear of judgment, but it was also like, I really didn't want to feel like I was telling somebody something wrong. Like, I'm like, it was just so important.
That's me every day.
I didn't, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to send anybody off. So that was difficult for me to just be like, no, like, you trust it.
Yeah.
But the records did tell me that. They're like, girl, please.
I'll do my own Akashic record reading, but I won't do other people. I just feel like I don't want to tell people wrong information.
But I think, and like, what do you think about, I think, the Akashic Records, I think for a lot of people is part of your healing, your self-healing.
Yep.
There's something about seeing yourself from a different perspective. It's basically like, it's like, so when you're doing an Akashic Record reading, it's like, I'm allowing you to see yourself through God's eye.
Yeah.
And it's like, how else would, you know what I mean? Like, God sees you like this. This is what, and to me, that's really, really, really beautiful, because we see each other just with these little boring eyes we have. With like, there's the visuals, and our ability to see is so much grander than what we see out of these two eyes. And I know that sounds a little crazy to some people, but y'all know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yes, and I feel like that's important, and I feel like whether that comes through a reader or a life coach or even just somebody who loves you, and I feel like that's huge.
Oh my God.
People who love you have a very high vision for your life.
That is so true. That is so. People who love you, and think about the people that you love, the way that you see them.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see
People
them.
who love you
like,
have a
oh my
high
goodness,
vision for your life.
I see you, and that's a good thing. When you see somebody, that's some good love.
Yeah, and sometimes too, it's like if somebody in your life that does love you, that doesn't have a very high vision for your life, that just means that they've kind of shrunken their own vision down so much that they can't even believe in the, in a huge vision for somebody they love. And, it just, a lot of times that comes from trauma. So it doesn't mean they don't love you if they don't have the biggest vision either. But I feel like when I read for couples or even just best friends where one just sits in while the other goes and then I read for the other, I kind of love reading with a witness that loves them there because people, they're just trying to drink it in, and I understand, the reading, me reading for you has nothing to do with getting validated whatsoever. It is about you, and it is about you getting what you need and hearing what you need to hear. But it's nerve-wracking as somebody who is, a perfectionist and who has all the same fears of, I don't want to tell anybody anything that's wrong, but, and so when someone's, not very reactive, it's I just have to remember that I'm, they're drinking it in, and, this came from my records, my friend read my records, yeah, it's they're okay, their cup is full, they are literally plugging back into their full selves, and, their spiritual cup is just overflowing, and it takes processing time, and there have been times where I thought people hated readings and had horrible anxiety over it, and then they booked me 2, 3, 4, 5 more times,
right?
and I'm just I guess I liked it. And, so some people are really non-reactive. So when you read when somebody who loves that person is there, the other person is nodding and they are yes. And the whole time they are just yeah.
And see, that's more energy too that person is getting.
And I just love it because I'm just it's so validating of me as the stranger, allowing this information to channel forward of I feel like you need to be getting paid more at your job and be more vocal, and their best friend's sitting there nodding or fist pumping or did you hear that? Did you hear that? They'll do that too. Write it down. Yeah. I love that. And
I will be the first to say I have had an Akashic Record reading done by you. And she is the truth. And so at the end, we will make sure to leave her information for you guys. And so, I do have a question. So does the universe have its own Akashic Record?
I think that's a great question.
I
It
never
is
thought about that.
I'm just curious. How deep can this shit go?
Look, I'm going to have to think about this for a minute.
I think it's limitless. And so I really think that through your own Akashic Records, you can access everything in the universe. And so I feel like the universe's Akashic Records just have many different names. So then, Christie, Mia, it's just different doors to enter the same library, essentially. And then you have your wing that really focuses on this lifetime and the lifetimes that influence this lifetime. And also, but I feel like there are limits to that just because we are choosing to incarnate as these semi-individual figures that, you're not really able to go into your records and see what your ex is up to, that kind of stuff.
You're sneaking around.
Yeah, you're not able to...
Did you hear that, you guys?
To violate anyone's privacy. So that's where the boundaries of that is.
Sorry, sis.
Oh, yeah. And I've had someone ask a question that had, that had nothing to do with them. They were asking about an ex and their partner. And oddly enough, they were asking, I believe, if their ex's apartment was clean. I was oh, is he cleaning? Kind of still with that judgment. And I was I mean, literally, I just felt the curtain dropped, lights are out, cannot see anything. Yeah, so you will definitely be blocked. And I even feel like there are times too where something really, really special is going to happen in somebody's life, or that they're I feel like sometimes there are even things that we can't see that do have to do with us, and it's that we just need to have that unfold without knowing. For example, I remember...
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Because there are times when you will see something, and it's you see a little bit, but and I've tried to say to people, they told me no. When they told me no. They said, it's something you have to do on your own. People are like, what? And I'm like, I'm dead serious. I mean, now I want to know what it is.
Right.
But if it's not time for it to be revealed to you, because it might be a lesson for you. Like, you know, you actually need to go through this process to get to this good, juicy part. And so sometimes knowing ahead of time, you won't do the work because you're like, oh, I know it's coming. It's like, no, but I still need you to do the work. So sometimes I've definitely seen that where they're just like,
and I've heard this saying where they say delay does not mean denial, which is so true. I mean, just because it's not coming when you think it should come does not mean that you're never going to get it. So that's pretty sweet. That's cool. I mean, all of this, I mean, the Akashic Records, that is amazing. Mia, do you have any questions for her?
I mean, I have like a gajillion of them. Like, are you serious right now? Do you want to go next? Look, I'm like, because I can keep going.
Oh, go ahead. You can ask.
Okay. So, here's a quick question. We talked about, I wrote down this note. So, you were talking about your relationship with your husband. So, okay, guys, y'all know I'm waiting for my boo, so don't get your little judgy eyes off of me. I'm blocking your judgy eyes. But no, being able to be your full self in a relationship, especially when we're talking about, you know, your spiritual self, and it's just like, how did you know when you met your husband
that's a good question,
that you know that, like, oh, I can be me, he's accepting of all of this, because I mean, you have a lot of different skills, because she's such a cute little Puerto Rican princess, like, you know, all these beautiful things, but you know, something like, you know, I really get all up into people's spiritual lives. That could be like, oh shit, I don't want to do. So how did you know that the person that you were interacting with, like, oh, I can give him all of me?
I love that you asked that, because it makes me remember that it was a choice that we decided. We had a conversation. I mean, we were like 3 days in, or 3 dates in, and these are, he just used to come over to my house. He used to be in the restaurant industry, and he used to just come over to this like room that I was renting in Chinatown and hang out and drink coffee until he like went to work. And I was just kind of like, and now that I know him, or I guess knew him like in the restaurant industry time, now he wakes up at 5 a.m. and I think that's crazy, but I respect it. And I actually think it's really adorable, but he used to get up really late, and now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, he used to get up at like early to go over to my place and drink coffee with me before work, and like, yeah. And I mean, that alone is just amazing. But so we would just talk like for 6 hours, and then he would go to work. And so when I say date 3, it was pretty deep by date 3.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, you know what? Like, what if? And it's so funny, because I'm like, would I have the courage to even say this stuff now? I feel like there was just something about that point in my life and starting a relationship where I don't know what it was. I just like was saying whatever, and I was really owning myself at that time, which is why I feel like I was like, I attracted it in. And yeah,
see it. Oh, sorry.
And it's interesting because like my mindset had just shifted too, because like I was at the heaviest weight of my entire life when we started dating.
Interesting.
Which was something I was like wildly insecure about for a couple years, and then all of a sudden, then I thought I was the hottest shit ever, and I was like, oh my God, like this butt, these curves, like yeah. And so
body roll. She always needs absolutely no excuse to body roll.
Yeah. And I like decided, I'm like, I want like the real. I'm like, I want the real thing. And so I was like, you know what if we just decide to be fully unapologetically ourselves, and like we'll either like scare each other away really fast, or you know, or we'll bond really quickly. And so just kind of laid that out there.
Love that.
That's really cool.
What was his response when you kind of said, so yeah?
And that's so, I mean, I feel like this is, I mean, that's the reason why we're soulmates, is his response was like, yeah, it sounds like a great idea. You know, I feel like that's the thing too, is it's important to say all the stuff that you need to say, because it's like then holding back becomes a habit. And you know, and there are periods in a relationship where that happens, and it's like, oh, I noticed I've been holding back, and then you spew it all out, and then everything is okay. Yeah. And so it's like really I feel like the best partner for everyone is that partner where you can just say everything. It's like we called it emotional. We had a policy of emotional transparency. And so,
oh my God, I love that.
It's so helpful too. It like really helps dissolve resentment, and I feel like that's the thing that really busts up most relationships.
That's so true.
And like for example, like I used to work at Dearborn Station, and there was like a person who worked there, and I said hi to him when I was with Kevin, and like I was like, I hope this is okay to share. It's fine. No, I think I've asked him before. And, you know, and he had, like, shared that he was like, oh, I kind of, like, felt this fear, you know, that maybe you guys used to have a flirtation or anything like that. And I was like, no. Like, silliest thing I've ever heard. Like, I've only ever said hi.
But I love that he felt comfortable enough to share with you, like, I felt some type of way about that. And so for...
Not a lot of men would.
And not a lot of people would. So for... In that moment... Like and if that had gone a different way and he hadn't said anything, you really don't know how that would manifest itself later, because then like, you know, he holds it back, and now he's kind of looking, now he's watching other stuff. But for him to feel comfortable and to be like, I something about that, I just, you know, I felt some type of way. It allowed her the opportunity to love on him and to feed into him. And so now he's super confident and secure because he was able to get it up, and she didn't, you know, shun him away or just like, okay, no, actually, you know what I mean? So I love the idea of emotional transparency. That's some beautiful shit.
I'm all about that life.
Yeah, and it's like that could have been something that built up, that he had that sleepless nights about, like, you never know.
And then it's this monster that comes out in totally different ways, like years later. You're like, wait, what are you talking about? Who? I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Because you held back so long.
Yeah, and then you're able, like, I even think the records have mentioned it in that way too, where they're, like, with partners that have kind of drifted a bit, they're like, you need to, especially the overgivers, that group, like, they tend to not want to bring their emotional stuff to their partners all the time. They're just worried that it's too small, it's not a big deal, they're already doing, you know, going through enough, or, like, doing too much. That their partners are, and so they're like, bring your anxieties to your partner and let them love them away, let them explain your fears away, you know, because like the right person,
She's about to make me cry. I want somebody to love them away. Love them away. I love that.
Yeah, and I just like, and I loved that because I knew that when we had talked about it after the moment, that never would have come out, the fear that he expressed, like, so courageously. And that's the thing, is like, I loved that moment so much because I'm like, that was the bravest shit to say ever. It was so brave to express a fear. And so then afterwards, because I think I had held back a little bit, you know, like, you know, no one's perfect. And so I was like, oh, I was like nervous when you hugged that one girl at the end. She
that you brought that up.
So, yeah. And so I was able to, like, kind of express some fears too, because it's like, I think especially as girls, there's extra pressure on us too, to not cling, to not. Yeah. And so, you know, because like if a guy clings, it's like, oh, it's Edward Cullen, it's sexy. You know, he's
you don't want him to know that you like him so much. So
that's
the silly games we play.
That's, oh my goodness. That is definitely a thing where it's like, I don't want to seem too clingy, or you know what I mean? Like I don't trust you, or I don't want to come off that way, but I feel some type of way about it. And I can tell you, I have definitely had moments where I've not said anything, and like now in this space I look back, I'm like, why didn't you just open your damn mouth? Like just say something. Oh my god.
And say it all. Like, because I even feel like, you know, we've been together, I think we started dating like 6 years ago now, in like at the end of January or so. But I feel like that's the thing, is like anytime that there's pressure on the relationship, there's something we need to resolve, it's because someone's holding back. It's because usually me. And so then I'm like, okay, now I just need to, like, you know, when something comes up, you just got to say it, and say it all, because it's like, if your partner is the right person, they want you to feel safe, secure, loved, you know, trusted in, all of that stuff. And so they're gonna... there's no way that a partner can alter the path if they don't know what's going on in your head. And like, especially, like, no one knows what's going on in your head but you, especially if you're an anxious person. Right. You know, it's like, we know how to catastrophize better than anybody. And so like, someone who doesn't have that kind of like running anxiety has no idea how to anticipate these moves. And so you have to be fair.
What's the problem? Yeah. So in episode 8, we talked about addressing our shadow self. And so, do you have any suggestions on how our listeners can deal with their shadow self using the Akashic Records?
You know, I feel like the records, they're so bright and loving that I feel like you don't really have even like a shadow self inside of them. It's more so like it kind of shines a light on those moments. It kind of helps you understand that in the moments where you behaved like you didn't want to behave, how you were surviving. And so, like, a lot of times they'll ask people to forgive themselves for, like, the behaviors that showed up when they were surviving and, like...
I think you told me that once.
Oh, yeah?
Tell my younger self to
That is,
Exactly.
Oh my God, I love, because it's, oh my God, we were talking about releasing. We talked about this last night, too. Just about releasing and letting go. And a lot of the things, sometimes, I talk about releasing with gratitude, because a lot of sometimes the things that we're like embarrassed about, or you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. These were things that we put in place for protection. It's like, it's like a spiritual or emotional bruise. Like if you get punched in the face, your eye swells up to protect itself. So it's almost like, if I'm getting emotionally punched, your body swells up to protect itself, and you may act in a different way, and you don't even know that I'm doing this to protect myself. And then you get to a different place in your life, and you're looking back like, oh my God, why did I do that? It's like, no, that served you and protected you at that time. And it really is just survival. Like we were just out here trying to survive, but we do have to let that go. But I do think that I love how you say that, the records are just, it's really light. It's just shining a light on, like, what that was for you. And it's not, and I've never seen anything come out that's like, oh yeah, that was fucked up what you did. There's always, it's cause and effect. I always think about the cycle. I always think about the what do you call this thing? The infinity sign. It's this, and then it's this, and it's this, and then
I've always found like a lesson in the Akashic Record. Like even when it was a difficult time, like, okay, now I have an understanding as to why, one, I am the way that I am now, and then two, now I kind of understand like part of my soul. Like it just brings me to a different understanding. Which brings me to another question. So in what way can the Akashic Record help with healing? And we kind of talked about this, I think, during my last reading about, go back and deal with some, or I don't, maybe it wasn't you. I can't remember who it was. I'm sorry. But like, how can the Akashic Record be used to help heal?
I feel like, it kind of even relates to the shadow self a little bit too, is a lot of times it takes the blame off of everybody, but especially yourself. And I feel like that's the thing too is, and I tend to read for the overachiever, overgivers, and usually like really, really horrific shit will happen to them, and they're carrying around guilt for it. So, it's just, it's incredible the things that people will blame themselves for or feel responsible for. And so I feel like it just lets everybody off of the hook. It even helps explain, explain the perpetrator and the person who's being really toxic. And so especially when you can understand too, why they did what they did and how they were feeling. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes the person, they'll come up against that information and be like, no, they're so egotistical. There's no, they don't see that inside of that person, that they are the most insecure person in the whole world. And that's why they're acting so domineering, so narcissistic, so egotistical. So the understanding helps. And one of my favorite things for healing too is they'll often bring up that when it comes to the people who have really, really deeply hurt us, the good that's come out of it. And so they've said before, they're like, everywhere that dirt is scattered, flowers grow. And I love that. Love it.
Everywhere that dirt is scattered, flowers will grow.
Yeah. And so even the ways in which you've been hurt, there are amazing things that come out of that. I notice a lot of people who are very psychically open, a lot of people who click with the records very quickly. A lot of times they were abused as children. A lot of times it is super traumatic childhoods.
Ding, ding,
yeah,
ding, ding, ding.
because it's you had to open your psychic senses. You kind of had to pull every tool out of the box to be able to survive what you were going through. And sometimes too, it's those are people where it's they are they're very high achieving in the eyes of humanity. And so it's they tend to make a lot of money, have a lot of accolades, be very good at what they do, be very psychically open. But a lot of times there are feelings of loneliness or just a lack of happiness or high functioning depression typically. And all these things, and so the records, when it comes to helping that person heal, they're just kind of like, okay, look at everything you're doing to survive, but also look at all the ways like that you're humanly trying to prove that you're good enough instead of just accepting that. And I think the records just help people understand that they are good enough. Oh, and then when it comes to other people, where that's like everywhere that there is scattered flowers grow, that it's like we are all. Every soul in the universe is one soul. Every soul in the universe is a very dear friend, but especially the ones that come up and kind of like in the moment seem to fuck up your life. Mm-hmm. They're the dearest friends of all because they're the ones who take on the role of the villain in the play. And so the records will often show me this visual when someone's having a hard time forgiving somebody else, and it's like they're the hero in their story. They're the person that everyone's rooting for in this play. And then this person shows up to help you tell your story, and they have to put on the witch nose and the humpback, and they have to hobble up and and be a bitch, and then everyone's booing them. But then they show me at the end of the play, then everyone's holding hands, like, the curtain is up, and, and then they look at each other, and it's like, you were so convincing. But also, like, there's this deep gratitude of, like, thank you for helping me become more of me. Wow. And so, yeah.
No, God, no, bro, I no, seriously. I really, really, really need people to hear and understand what Jessica just said. It's, because it goes back to the theory that kind of everything in your life happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. There are no accidents. The people that come into your life, so even the demons in our life, the bad people, there's something when we talk about kind of like the light, or we talked about this from the other day, like the bad shit comes in, the stars come out the other side of this. It's like you wouldn't be where you were if you hadn't had this experience. There was something about this where you were allowing that you needed to grow and become more of who you are. And so this person that came into your life, even not saying that you hold on to this person, but it does allow you to, sorry guys, we don't know what's going on right now, but it does allow for you, I'm going to try to pass, I'm not screaming, it does allow for you to become more of who you are. And if you hadn't been tested and tried, it's almost like you don't know how resilient you are until you have to be.
And that's the lesson that I learned.
You are until you have to be. And it allows you to have compassion. Let me tell you, you get to a whole nother level when you are allowed to have compassion for people who fuck with you. Hurt you. That's just a whole nother level. But then because you understand, like, you are a necessary part of my life. I appreciate who I am. And even with
that was the lesson from my first marriage. He showed me how strong I truly was and am.
You just don't, and sometimes you don't know until you have to pick yourself up off the ground. Okay, sorry. Mm-hmm. I had a question. So we talked there. I feel like there's something about women now. Mm-hmm. Just this divine femininity that is just, I don't know what's going on. I just feel like it's there's something there's an uprising, and I think it seems like there's a lot more people in general, but specifically women. We're talking about the queens today. We're not bad talking our kings because we love you and we need you, but when I'm talking about the uprising of women, what do you think how would you describe, or why do you think what's happening is happening? And I also want to be mindful of the time that we're living in. Oh, just to mention, guys, what's today? Wednesday? It's the day after the election, you guys. So we're still waiting to find out what's happening for the next 4 years. But I do think there is something about what's been going on minimally the last 5 years where there is an awakening, there's an uprising of women. Well, why do you think that is now at this time? Like, what do you think is going on in our world? And according to the records, that women are just petals popping.
Petals popping.
Petals popping.
Yeah, that's actually a theme, especially since COVID started here in the States. I have been seeing this theme of, like, a lot of times they'll show me the person that I'm reading for, especially when they're involved in kind of like spiritual or healing work of some sort. I see them in a white dress with a flower crown, and it always seems to be this representation of spring. And I see this woman, and she looks over at this guy who looks like straight out of Game of Thrones. He's wearing all these fur pelts, like long beard, and very like scraggly, very like just brutish kind of masculinity. And I see this winter behind him, and he's holding a spear. And I just see the woman wearing the white dress like walk up to him as spring and like take the spear and says like, oh, I'll take that. And just like, and it's time. It's like a shift over, especially too, like I feel like with Saturn in Aquarius, which has been like the past like 2 or 3 years, or sorry, Saturn in Capricorn the past 2 or 3 years. Saturn is a massively healing planet, and Saturn is the planet of authenticity. So it's like, that's why the Saturn return, when you turn around 29, 30 years old, if you've had like authenticity just kind of show up and like rock your world, it can be hard for people if you've been very inauthentic to yourself, but it's always great because what it does is it shakes everything loose to get you back to you. It's like this grand like reset in a way. And so when Saturn moves through a sign like Capricorn, which, it represents the patriarchy, it represents, there's always a shadow and a shiny side of a sign. But yeah, it represents some toxic masculine issues that need resolving. And so Saturn has been coursing through the past like 3 years or so. And I feel like, we've seen the Harvey Weinsteins come down, the Jeffrey Epsteins come down, just like, woo, like any sort of like toxic masculinity. We've seen like Me Too movement, all this stuff coming up, like women.
That's a good point.
Not finding, but using their voices.
Yes. So do you, and it's funny because I have rarely asked the records regarding global things. It's usually like person, or myself. And Jessica, she does a really good job of like, let me get a good look at what's going, kind of what's going on around us. Do you think there? I don't want to say an end, but is there a point to this? I feel like we're building up to something that when I tell you the energy has been palpable, and
it's been crazy.
Every woman that I have done a reading for, like everyone that has come to me, I'm just like, oh my God, like and I'm starting to realize like, it seems like there's something coming up, and it's like, okay, wake her up, let her know who she is. And so, what are we preparing for?
I think we're preparing for balance restored, which I feel like we've been out of balance for a really long time. And so I'm grateful for all this toxic masculine toppling and a balance. But one of the things I've seen in the records a lot is all these men and women who have completely stomped into the earth their feminine sides. And usually it comes up as this image. I see a skeleton, and on half of the skeleton, I see a suit, like the most corporate looking suit you can imagine. And then on the other half of the skeleton, I see, in a balanced person, all these flowers growing through the rib cages and winding around the bones. And it's really beautiful. It's like this garden. And so, like, they showed me this image of all these men and a lot of women as well, too, especially women in the corporate world, women with, like, high-powered positions, just shoving down that femininity, stomping it into the ground in order to survive. And, and that's the thing, too, is I feel like, we talk about having compassion for the perpetrators. It's like, I really feel like men's pain is overlooked. It's like we kind of keep looking at all the shit that toxic men are doing, but we're not asking, why is this man acting like so far from his soul? Like, why is he so alienated from his soul? And like, what kind of pain does someone have to go through? What kind of pain does someone have to go through to be that alienated from their soul? And so I've often felt really grateful to be a girl, and I feel like the records have pointed that out too, of like, girls, they're born, and like right away it's like, oh, well, you can be in a basketball and musicals and this and that. And then it's like, guys, it's like they step a toe out of the line of their masculine expectations. True. And it's like, oh, are you gay? Yes. Are you a little girl?
Yes,
and
it's like, so true.
And so we in many ways have a lot of kind of secret freedom that like I feel like is kind of unacknowledged.
I really, you know what? I feel like when you and I, Christy, were born, I don't think we were necessarily taught that we had that much freedom. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we were, and I would say that I know for a fact a lot of women. I remember going to college, going down to Atlanta, I can't tell you how many women I knew where their moms told them go down there and find a husband. Like that was their, you know what I mean?
Their goal.
Yeah. You find you a man, like that's, you know what I mean.
The MRS degree,
right? And not necessarily like, you know, you don't have a career yourself, but it's like I think that a lot of us have been taught that in order to be complete, in order to be, you know, like a real woman, and for people to recognize and acknowledge that, oh, okay, she has it all, that meant that there had to be a man in there. And I feel like from our generation that men were taught, like, you know, go out, sow your oats, and then when you're tired and run down,
then you find a woman.
Then you choose one of these many women who are, you know what I mean? So, but I feel like people under the age of 35, and really people under the age of 30, they came in a different reality. It's like total. It's like this, and because the people who are parenting them, the moms and the dads, it's a different time and a space, and they really taught them. You can be anything, and I say this, and it's so funny because I say this all the time to people, to women. It's like, it's not either or. You don't have to choose. I'm going to be a mother, or I'm going to, you know, have this fabulous career. It's like, no, and you are this and so I think that a lot of people who are younger than us, they benefit from knowing, and especially the women, knowing that they have this freedom to be. And I wonder if that toxic masculinity is still there. And, you know, I know from our age group and up, oh my God, it's huge. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But do you think that when you're thinking about you know, men your age, clearly not we're not talking about Kevin, but you know, do you think that toxic masculinity was kind of inbred in them?
Yeah, I do. Luckily less, but I feel like, you know, children, at least what I know from the records, children do so much more of what they see than what they are told, and so they are still raised. Oh my God. Yeah, so they're raised by men who are still under that toxic masculinity, and so even though they were never told, you have to go out and provide for your family, and you have to be, you know, you have to be strong all the time, and you have to hold back your emotions, and you have to not communicate about these things. They saw their fathers do that, and so a lot of them are still, it's amazing. Like, I don't read for guys that often, and like when I do, I friggin' love it, because like, oh man, they need to hear that they do not have certain things on their shoulders. I feel like it's just like there are so many guys out there who feel like if they're not providing for their wives, partners, children, or even parents, mothers, like if they feel like they're not providing, they feel like they're nothing, and that is just so upsetting. And like it's just amazing. Like, I feel like guys are like, women kind of, from what I've seen in the records, kind of tend to nitpick themselves. So it's like, oh, well, you have bumpy skin. Oh, you don't have this job. You know, it's like the kind of the smaller things. Like the guys, they kind of, they don't really, they go big picture, where it's just kind of like they feel like there's one big thing in life that they do wrong, and they just rip the rug out from underneath themselves. And it's like, it's devastating, where I'm just like, damn, like I'm glad I didn't do that.
Oh my God. I honestly, I can say, like, even... I could say even with like my ex-husband and men that I've known, there is something about them feeling like if they are not providing, that they are not a man. Mm-hmm. But the issue.
Well, where did they learn that from?
But this is the thing. The issue is, if I'm not providing, then, you know, my manhood is being challenged. But the issue that comes in is with that doesn't allow you to be in partnership with the person that you're with. So now I'm competing with my partner, because I have to. I'm supposed to be on top. Whereas, you know, life doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. It's up and down. Sometimes you're on top, and sometimes, you know, we're pushing and pulling with each other. Mm-hmm. So I think that does a lot to break down communication. It doesn't allow for emotional transparency, because I still and it's even if you tell. And this is a funny thing. Even if you tell them, I don't need that from you. That's, you know what I mean. Like, I want to be your partner. There's something in them that's just like, she's just saying that, and then it makes them actually, sometimes it'll make men feel worse because they're like, now you're showing pity on me. Oh God, she thinks I'm a bitch. Like I mean, when I say that, I know me, like, they will allow themselves to be abused emotionally and mentally, all for the sake of saving the idea that I'm a provider and I'm the man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stay in relationships that they don't want to be in. Stay with people that they don't even like. That you know what I mean? That they don't want to grow with. All for the sake of saving the face of, I'm a provider. I'm the man. This is what I'm supposed to do, or this is what I should do. You know, they say don't go shooting
1 hour
on
and
your
10
life.
minutes.
Oh, look at you. So yes, that's a thing. That's definitely a. Oh my
It's
God.
like that the identity gets stripped away way more easily. Like if a woman wears basketball shorts, like no one's like, you're not a woman, you know. But if a man wears a dress,
Well,
like I feel
it
like
depends on how she looks, and sometimes I'm like.
And so I feel like it's like that title gets stripped like so easily.
It is definitely much. I think, and even think, like when you think about homosexuality, women, it is much more. I mean,
acceptable.
It's much more acceptable for women to explore their sexuality.
I was like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
But
like
when a man does it, it's like, you did it how many times?
You did what?
Just
you
one
tried
time.
What?
One time.
You know what I mean? We look at them like, you know, the society looks at them like, oh, like you're tainted.
Yeah.
But if a woman goes out and has an affair, we don't even look at it as like, oh, well, you were just, you know, exploring yourself.
I feel like it almost gets you street cred. Like I feel like you're cooler if you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And men don't. And so what happens when you're suppressing yourself, anybody, you're suppressing yourself, then, you know, you're hiding yourself, and then you're never allow yourself to be who you truly are. We have to normalize allowing the men in our life to be honest with who they are and be accepting, because we expect them to be accepting of us and all the shit that we do.
I agree, Mimi, but
She said what?
did I tell you about Crybaby?
Crybaby? No.
So there was this guy that I was dating, and his title was Crybaby for a reason. Every single time we had a conversation, he would start crying. And I got to the point, I was like, again? Like, really? You just cried yesterday. you didn't get it out? And honestly, like, I have to admit that I looked at him like a pussy. Like, are you serious? You are crying for the 10th time today.
Wow. You know what?
He was very emotional.
I don't know if I would be able to handle
He was very
I would say
emotional.
for me, seeing a black man cry, even just because I know how much it takes for, especially a black man.
He did not have a problem.
I know that when they allow themselves to be that vulnerable, it does something to me. But I will say, if it goes on the opposite end, I really want to believe that I'm enlightened and all that, but I
have a hard time like admitting that I could overlook that. You know, yes, I want you to be your authentic self, but something is.
Yeah, it sounds like that there's a pattern of upsetness, or a pattern, like, just, it might not even be, like, it might feel human-wise like that it's the tears, like, on the surface, but it might just be the emotional baggage that he was dragging through the room every single day. Like, it's a lot, like, that can really weigh on you. And also, too, I feel like it just depends, too, on your connection, because I feel like it's like when you're madly in love with somebody, and it's like if they need to cry it out, like, you're just kind of like, oh my God, do your thing, and it's kind of really hot, and like, you know.
You know, that is so true. When you love somebody, like, for real love somebody, the stuff that you see when other people are like, oh my God, you're such a bitch. You're like,
yeah.
Come to mama.
Oh, it's fine.
Come lay your head on my bosom. Let me just.
Oh my God.
That's true.
That so reminds me of, so I was like, I'm going to hype up TikTok again. Because I was telling Kevin, I was like, you know, with this whole, we're seeing the toxic masculinity come down, and then the records have shown that skeleton figure of the flowers, they're growing back. The feminine it's uprising. And so in the women who have shut it down, in all, you know, gender identities that have shut down their feminine side, the flowers are growing back now. And it's kind of like the, whatever kind of toxic gas was killing these flowers and taking it away, that's been cleared out by Saturn in Capricorn, which that finishes out on December 21st. And now we have this like amazing uprising of feminine energy. It's like, okay, now the flowers are growing back, and so we're going to see more of these balanced men as well too. And I read for remarkable, amazing, super balanced men as well too, who are just like sometimes trying to feel okay because they're balanced, and and the fact that they are sensitive, and it's like, oh, so you're a human being. And I feel like that's the thing too, is like, Kevin is a very, very balanced man. And I feel like just through existing, through doing the work that he does, he teaches new paradigm, like energy work. And, he does coaching, he does like podcasts, just kind of everything. But through doing what he does, I feel like he just paves the way for men to feel more okay with themselves. He loves the color purple, he loves looking good, he loves crystals, and so it's like just through embracing what makes him happy, he's also helping other guys allow themselves to be happy and allow themselves to have the crystals.
I
love that.
Talking about her.
I know.
Did you just see that?
That.
I'm just looking at her like, she loves this man.
Oh, yeah,
I can't wait to feel like, I want to feel like that. Did you see her whole face? Like, just the way she, okay.
Warm and gooey inside.
Yeah, and like with this,
I was going to ask another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
At what age, or was there an age where you felt that you were just different?
Oh, like, as soon as I had memories, like, I remember there would be times I was so little, I was waiting alone for my mom to come wipe me. I was on the toilet. And I remember I would have these, like, moments of just, like, complete awareness rushing in, and I would just be, like realize that I'm looking out my eyes, and I'd be like, oh, and I'm Jessica, and that woman that I, like, just kind of knew was coming, I'm like, that's my mom. And, like, yeah, so I'm, like, 2 years old thinking this
amazing.
Stuff. Yeah, and I used to hate it. It used to make me want to throw up. Like, it used to,
really?
My whole body would tingle.
That's, like...
it would freak me out.
The fact that I'm looking through that's
like so aware at such a young age.
Scary, especially if nobody else is that aware.
Yeah, and because it's almost like you're reminding it's like, oh, that woman's my mom, but it like nothing feels familiar, and you're like, my name is Jessica, and my whole body's just like tingling, and I used to, every time it happened, because that used to happen to me all the time, like, I mean, at least like twice a year, let's say. And every time it happened, I'd always be afraid that I'd be stuck there, and that I could never never be like myself, Jessica. Or never be in the moment again. And sometimes I'm really grateful to be who I am and to do the things that I do. But sometimes, like, I feel so hyper aware of everything. I'm observing every thought, like all the kind. I mean, sometimes I do go on autopilot and spiral, and I'm not observing my toxic thinking, but. Sometimes I'm just like, man, do people just live their lives and they just live and they don't think about it too much?
Been there.
Sounds nice.
I just said to Christine the other day, I totally understand, because that awareness, I was like, I totally understand why people don't want to necessarily be aware.
Yeah, why they want to stay ignorant.
Because you want to stay, because it's comfortable there. And sometimes,
because once you know, there is no going back.
You can't go back.
There is no going back.
I understand why people just like, I'm cool, I'm good, I feel good here. I don't want to, because then it's like that awareness, because then you start to, then it makes you question everything. So what am I doing here? You know what I mean? And sometimes if you're not ready to go there,
right,
that's scary. So I do, oh my God, wow. I can't imagine, wow. I need to go ask Jay some questions. So we yesterday when we talked about depression, and you were talking about this quote that you heard, and I love it, and I want you to share that. But I especially for right now, what's happening, like when I say right now, I mean literally like right now. Yes. There's a lot of anxiety going on in the world. There's a lot of fear of like what's next.
A lot of fear, a lot of anxiety.
What's next, and what does this mean? And a lot of people question themselves and their thoughts and their processes. Just in general, I think, because we talked a little bit about like addressing your shadow self, but I mean that's like kind of like stuff that's like in there. But when you're dealing with today. Oh, you're fine.
I'm like joking on plantain, just like a little bit.
Oh, no.
When you have, when people are dealing with the today, like what? Sorry.
I was like, what is that?
All right, I'm sorry. Are those helicopters? What is that?
I don't know.
Must be the train over there. Sorry.
Yeah, it sounds like a
that
train
was
or
just a
something.
weird noise. Okay.
Yeah.
But when people are dealing with their day-to-day, that's a train. When you're dealing with with kind of like, when you're in the moment, when you're spiraling, like, we all have that moments. Like, literally, when I say I'm on the last part of a spiral, I literally mean like 5 minutes ago. But when people are spiraling, and especially when you have an awareness of who you are, like, okay, I know that I'm more than just whatever this definition that people are trying to make me, and you're spiraling. And for yourself, how do you pull yourself back? Like, wait a minute, hold on. Let me bring myself back to who I am. Mm-hmm. Or remember, or remind myself, like, okay, this is for a reason. Because sometimes it's so hard to bring yourself back, especially when you are spiraling on your own, when you cause your spiral, when you're like, okay, I'm spiraling, and this is something I kind of did to myself, and I know you have done it, I know you have done it, and I know I have done it. How do you bring yourself back, Jessica?
I'm so glad you asked this, just because I feel like I finally have an answer this week. Because I feel like the past 2 weeks I've had the most raging anxiety ever, and usually, and I feel like especially Kevin and other people in my life have helped me be more aware of anxiety, but I feel like this month I've finally been like, oh my God, I'm a people pleaser. I'm an overgiver. I'm constantly criticizing myself. I feel like I kind of came to another layer of healing. Like the records will show.
Yeah. Show yourself.
And that's the thing is, like, especially I feel like it is in many ways a female issue. And I actually was just listening to, I was like, I rarely read with my eyes these days, but listening to Cheryl Richardson's The Art of Extreme Self-Care. And it's like, if you're just tired and you're a lady, just read that book, because it probably will open up something for you. The Art of Extreme Self-Care by Cheryl Richardson, who she's a life coach, and shares things that she learned as a life coach from her life coach. And it's a really great book, and it really helped me understand, like, oh my God, I do so much, and no wonder I'm so tired, and I'm just emotionally managing everyone's feelings and all that stuff, and
except
really helped me to detach. Yeah, exactly. And so it really helped me to understand, like, first of all, that I can be a very extremely anxious person, and how to deal with that and where it comes from. And a lot of it is this overgiving and trying to, I feel like women especially are just always trying to show that they're enough, and always just trying to feel good enough. And, it's like we have the many little details. We don't have that. We just have to be the provider, kind of, but, that's also extreme stress as well. But we have many more things to think about, and everybody's different. But just like, if we are to categorize, that tends to be how it goes. So I feel like I recovered just like a couple of days ago from an extreme bout of anxiety. And the things that really helped me, one was the affirmation, I just want what's best. And that's helped me with the election. That has helped me with all these changing things with COVID, we're dealing with so much more stress. Like, we're usually dealing with our careers and our interpersonal things and all that stuff. And now we're dealing with a lot more global stuff.
Yeah, layers.
And so it's hard not to feel really attached to outcomes, but then it's like, then you're riding a roller coaster, and then that really can send you over. So for the super anxious people, remember, the number one thing is to remember that you are the universe. And sometimes most recently I've been I look down at my body, but I kind of imagine that when I look down at it, that I just see stars and infinity. Like, I'm looking down, I'm like, oh, this is the universe down through here. The universe is on the inside, and I feel like we live in a mirror of the universe, right? Yeah. So everything around us is the mirror, but the universe is down inside. And so it's always been there. And so sometimes I'll look at myself like that. And so when you say, I just want what's best, and I'll say, I just want what's best to kind of release the anxiety. And then I say, I allow what's best in stepping into my power and really recognizing that it's like, oh, I'm the universe. And so all I have to do is let go of this tight grip that I have on these outcomes that I'm not even remembering or understanding why I, as the universe, set them up in the first place. And so, like, it's just, you're setting yourself up for disappointment by trying to use your human perspective to feel like you know what's right and wrong, and because, like, they're everywhere dirt is scattered, flowers grow, and so sometimes there's big dirt bombs.
See that posted on our site.
yes, you will.
Yes, you will.
And so, yeah, sometimes there's dirt bombs that happen, but it brings up a lot. It brings up a lot of potential for growth and flowers. Yeah, exactly. And so that helps me so much. And then, yeah, because it's like what's best really is always going to happen. Like, I don't feel like I've ever seen in the records anyone I'm able to, you can delay it. But only really for so long. Then eventually, so it's like you can kind of spread out your lesson and have it be a bit easier, or you can delay it and then kind of like spiral and go through all this stuff and then learn it anyway. But it's like you can only delay things so much. But yeah,
regardless.
The dream, the soulmate, like, that's all there for you. And it's like, it might even be way better than you think. So it's like if you're clinging onto a marriage, like, no, this is my soulmate, he's just like really mean to me. It's like, yeah, you're going to upset yourself. Or you could just say, I just want what's best. And then you notice the marriage fall apart, and then all of a sudden you meet your actual soulmate who's really nice to you. And so I feel like it's that letting go process. And sometimes I'll imagine that I'm holding onto a bar and like my hands are all calloused and like, where I am doesn't even look so great. And that when I let go, all of a sudden I'm going through the stars. And I imagine myself falling, but falling like peacefully. Kind of like every Ghibli movie. There's always kind of like a falling or a flying scene, but it's never traumatic. It's always like beautiful, just like falling through the air.
Like a surrender.
Yeah, exactly. Surrender.
I want to say this because oftentimes when we're telling people to trust their intuition, trust that claircognizance, trust your knowing, it's difficult because the way that spirit will show us things, it's something that relates to us. So I've heard some people say, but I mean, how do I know that's not me talking? That's not me, or I'm not making this up in my head. So, but but listening to Jessica, like how she gets her visual, like how like when I get visuals, when you get visuals. So notice that it's all something that is it is related to something you can understand in your life. So because Jessica is an actor, and she's in that world, when she's like scenes from a movie. So when they show her things, it's like things that she's seen from this, so that she can have the understanding, like, oh, this means this. Okay. So when you get visuals, it's going to be something like if you're talking to somebody and they're talking about a man who's not good, they're going to show you maybe the guy, somebody that you've been with, you're like, oh, that's the energy of it. So I love that because because they're making it easy for you to understand. And I know when I get visuals, a lot of times they'll show something for me. Now I don't know, I do get they would show me somebody's whole person, but when I'm trying to interpret that, it's like, okay, like what does that mean? They'll show me something. I'm like, oh, that's what that means. So, like, I want people to understand that, because when you're trying to understand and get kind of really accept the messages that you're getting for yourself, trust that they're making it easy for you. Spirit is making it easy for you to understand, like, because they want you to. They're not trying to trick you. You know what I mean? They want you to really get the message and the point. So they're going to show you something that you can relate to, something that's happened in your life, or something that you've seen that you can relate to understand what that means. And I love how you're like, when you see things, it's like, and she's such a visual person, which makes sense. Like, she like, that's just how she thinks and processes. So they're going to show it to her like that so she can help somebody else. And I love that. That's beautiful. Like, everybody sees it different. So don't be discouraged if you talk to somebody and they see it this way. You're like, well, it doesn't come up for me like that.
Yeah, everyone's different.
Everyone is different. Don't be discouraged if it's not. And which is another reason why it's important for us, for Christy and I, when we do these, we want to have representation, because we want people to hear a piece of themselves. You know what I mean? And different people. So please, you guys, don't be discouraged if it doesn't sound exactly like, you know, how we describe it or how Jessica describes it, anybody else describes it. Know that it's always there for you, and it's going to be there for you in a way that you can process.
Yep.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you said that too. It reminds me of the second reading I ever did in my life in my Akashic Records class, when I sat across from the girl, like we kind of like described how the information came through, like after we read for each other. And I was jealous of her because I would get the visions in class, but I didn't trust in the knowing, even though in that reading, you know what I mean? I just kind of was describing what I thought was going on in the scene, and it was like the most spot on thing ever. You know, I just had so much doubt in that, and she was like, oh, like they just talk to me, and like they just say it, and I was like, I want word for word. Like I was like, I'm so jealous.
They
I'm like, why do they just talk and then I can
I
see
get
what
like
they
pictures
say?
and puzzles, and I gotta put shit together.
And I was so, and I was just like, oh, come on. Like, I was like at the short end of the stick or something, and she's like, I wish I could see.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh my god.
Like,
Yes.
isn't that
See,
funny?
we talk about like
Yeah.
But like it's, and I think that because especially people who go to have readings and or they speak to healers, and you know, and like I said, healers go to healers. Like real talk. If
It's
you,
necessary.
it's necessary. Like I have no qualms about saying when I'm feeling a certain way, I'm like, okay, and I have no problem, you know, we talk about, I go to my guys all the time, I ain't got no problem, but they'll tell me, like, you and your feelings, so I'm gonna need you to go work this out. And so healers need healers, but you guys, trust your intuition, trust that knowingness. Like when I tell you, if something comes to you and you feel, like, trust that. Because, I mean, what the fuck do you have to lose? Fucking try it out. Just be like, okay, you know, let me see how this works. But it's not going to look like anybody else's because you're you and they are who they are.
Exactly.
And I'm so glad that you were talking about that, because I'm just like, it's different for everybody, but that doesn't make it less right.
That's
or
true.
doesn't make it less real. Trust your shit.
There's a lady who does psychic work by staring at a stalk of celery. There's no wrong way. that does it for her. I don't know what it is. Like, she literally does her readings off like a stalk of celery.
Or, like, think about it. You know people who use the what are those things called? The things that people put in their hair, the cowrie shells?
Oh, yeah, the shells. Yeah.
So some people look at that.
We're in an hour and 30 minutes too, by the way.
Good for I'm saying she's like, I mean, I think that for whoever it is that we are, you know, speaking to, or you know, it whatever works for you. I mean, people look at mirrors, water, I mean, honestly, and you discover more about yourself. I've literally done a reading before. This is when I discovered I don't even need cards anymore. I was just, you know, I literally went down at this table and I was looking up and I was like, oh shit, it's right here. And I was like, oh, I don't think I need these cards anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you start to grow and learn in your own self, but it's really like practicing your craft. But honestly, it all starts with trusting yourself. Like, fucking trust yourself. Nobody, just try it. Like, what do you have to lose on trusting you and that inner knowingness? That's why I always feel like, honestly, women always know when they're with somebody who's cheating on them. I don't care. Like, you can't be slick enough. But we tell ourselves that what I'm seeing is not true. Like, oh my God, you must be tripping. Oh my God, they would never do this. But we always know.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, you're right.
Because then every time something comes out, we're like, fucking do it. Like, every time. So trust yourself.
Yeah, and even ask yourself where that talk down comes from, because that's usually is a cue to your trauma. Because a lot of times, a lot of times we know something and then we talk ourselves out of it, because when we tell the truth, an adult would tell us a lie. And then we'd have to accept it. And so we were just like, man, my system is way off, because the adults around us couldn't admit to their mistakes and couldn't admit to what was going on. And
so true.
And so, the talk down is usually someone else's voice. And so is the anxiety and the spiral. And I feel like that's when you get the psychic information that comes in. And this is why, like, you know, sometimes there will be emotion that comes up and through the records with like when we get to a really, really painful spot with somebody, but most of the time it's like la 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 la, like it all just kind of flows out because there's not any sort of emotional attachment to it, because the soul doesn't have an emotional attachment. It's the human, who's just kind of like tumbling through this life without the perspective of the soul that feels that emotion. And so the same thing too is, like when I saw that vial of serum, that is it's like a key part of my movie. After I was like, I want to make a movie of like invisible, intimate, profound, soulful sci-fi, I just see this little piece, like serum in my mind. I feel like it's a push of information. That's how I used to describe it before I even knew it. Like, I remember when, like, my high school boyfriend broke up with me, I was like praying to God, and I was like, and I go through like my thank yous of kind of like, current event thank yous. And I remember like when I thanked God for him, I got this push of like, he's gone. And like, well, at first I thought he was gonna die, but then the next day I got a text that like he was breaking up with me, and I was like, oh my God, I thought you were gonna die and now you're breaking up with me. But yeah, that did not come with information. It wasn't like, oh, he's gonna break up with you and then, you're just gonna be miserable forever. It was just like, he's gone. Like, it was like, like it kind of like just, I described it to someone as it pushed my soul, is what I said. It was like a non-physical push. And so it like comes in. And I was also reminded too, like, with the overgivers, the perfectionists, this group of people tends to be very psychic, because a lot of these things come from traumas that kind of open up your psychic senses and make you have to be super aware. But also we tend to be the people who are most afraid to share our gifts because we don't want to do wrong. We don't want to be wrong because wrong means bad. Bad means you're not loved.
Not a good person.
Yes, exactly.
I'm unlovable. That means I'm not worthy enough.
Yeah.
And the spiral is deep.
Yeah. And to children, like, love is vital. If your mom doesn't love you when you're a baby, like, there's a problem there. And so
why is Mia fucked up?
And so that's where like the flowers come out of, like, oh my gosh, then you just like started a whole army of Mia, like, within you, and all this power was brought out in you. But then now it's about healing that little girl inside that just needs to feel good enough. But like,
chosen.
Yeah. And like, yeah, exactly. And so, and so you have to choose her.
I feel like crying today because I have cried for 3 to 4 days. But yes, I feel every piece of that.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like I'm getting a visual too of like, may I say it? Like,
please,
it's like,
yeah.
I feel like I'm getting a visual of a lineup of like all these little children that are like all 3 years old, and there's Mia in that lineup, and I feel like you need to walk and look at every child in the lineup and then choose her. And be like, you're my favorite. Like, you're the one that I want to spend my life with. You're the one. Yeah.
Yes. No, and like, I do honestly feel like, especially when we have childhood trauma, no matter which way it comes in, whenever we get a message as a child that, even if it wasn't done intentionally, anytime we ever get a message that either we're not good enough or we're not worthy, something that sticks with us. So then we do get to a point where you're like, okay, what's going on? We start picking through that. I honestly do think it is about going back there and be like, I choose you. And I've talked about this before. Like, I've done full meditations where I've had a whole conversation with that younger version of me, like, baby, we did it. We okay. I got us. Like, you know what I mean? And so there's something so empowering about knowing and I've honestly had conversations with my younger self where I'm like, everything that you went through was not for nothing. Like, I thank you. Like, thank you so much. I love you. Just come on, I got us. I got us now. We're gonna keep moving forward. But it's getting to the point where you realize, where you take it out of, I'm upset with the people or the person or whoever that hurt me. It's just like, anybody who does something to especially to a child, something is fucked up with them.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
it allows me to have compassion for me. But right now, it's like, now I'm in a place where it's like I can heal that younger part of me, and I am so committed to making sure that younger Mia lives a good fucking life. And like, baby, we got this. Let's do this, and choosing you. And I also think it as a mom, and y'all know I love my daughter like ridiculously, but but the lesson that I have learned in that process of going through that is making sure that she knows that no, I don't care what's going on in my life. I'm always going to choose her. So because I don't want. I mean, I'm not going to be able to prevent her from having any hurt or pain in her life. But I know that what she's not ever going to be worried about is whether or not she's good enough to be chosen.
Wow.
So she's gonna have other shit she's gonna have to deal with, but it won't necessarily be that. But that's because I went through that.
Yeah, no.
So
I love
that's
that.
some like that's really okay.
Yeah.
So then,
You're
do you
breaking that
have
pattern.
temple work for this particular?
Oh God, no! I totally forgot about temple work. We do have messages after Wazoo.
Okay.
So,
Want me to go to the crystal?
yeah, go to the crystal, and then I want you to think about while Christy's talking about we're talking about crystals, Jessica. I want you to think about what a message for everybody. You know, like what would you want them to walk away with? Okay, go ahead, Christy. Take it, Crystal,
Okay.
Christy. I'm telling you, dude. I'm gonna make myself. I'm making.
Listen,
awesome
the crazy thing is we both have the same sound.
like I heard it in my head.
I know.
It's like,
Okay. Okay, so this week's featured crystal, which happens to be one of Jessica's many favorite crystals that you sent Mia, is amethyst. And I looked back at our content schedule, and it's crazy that we
haven't done amethyst.
we haven't done amethyst.
That is so weird.
Isn't it? Like, of all the crystals, like
oh
I
my
was,
God.
like I went through. I'm like, wait, are you sure we haven't done? Wait, let me go back through.
Wow. Okay.
No, we haven't done. We have not featured this crystal
has
on
this
the
amazing
podcast. So a brief description. Amethyst is a very well-known crystal, mostly known and identified by its vibrant purple color. This crystal is one of the very few stones in which its unique purple coloration, and it's a variety type of quartz. It does contain some iron and other trace minerals within its structure. Its hardness is a 7 on the Mohs scale and is comparable to the quartz Mohs scale. So spiritual properties. Amethyst is connected to the crown and the third eye chakra. Just a brief spiritual meaning, and again, if this does not resonate with you, you don't have to accept it. Everyone's interpretation of what the crystal is giving them is going to be different, so this is kind of just like a basic basic share of information, but if you meditate with it and you find that the amethyst is giving you something different, it's not wrong, it is right for you. All right, so the spiritual meaning of amethyst is groundedness, tranquility, and calm, and the literal meaning of amethyst is not intoxicated. And so its name comes from the Greek word amethistos. And to be honest, I will be truthful. I will be truthful. So I actually carried the amethyst one time when I had a hangover, and it helped tremendously.
Really?
Yes. I learned in my crystal class.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes. I was just like, who knew? So additional properties of amethyst are calmness, balance, and peace. People also use this crystal to eliminate impatience. And one of the things that, I find with amethyst is it's very versatile. So I don't meditate. So just going into meditation, I don't meditate a lot with amethyst, but I do use it on my clients. And then I also will use it in like crystal grids, depending on the purpose. But Jessica, how do you work with amethyst? Or do you work with amethyst? Or what is it about amethyst that you like?
I love the purification qualities. It really does mean not intoxicated. And so a lot of people don't know this, but you can actually clean your crystals by putting them on a bed of amethyst. And
Really?
so,
With
yeah.
amethyst?
I
didn't know that.
And so I'll do that. Most of my amethyst is just like over in my, if you're like with Western Bagwas, the furthest back left corner of your home is like the financial corner.
Oh, I didn't
via
know
feng
about
shui.
that.
Say that again. The
furthest back left corner. So when you go in your front door.
Okay, so the front would be the front, so the back. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so that's your financial corner. And I've always and then your furthest, your furthest to the right corner, back
See, that's
corner.
left.
No, this is left. No, my front door is right there.
Yeah, but if
Yeah,
you
so
walk
when you come in, so that would be.
When
yeah.
you walk in. Okay, y'all know I don't know my right from left. You just saw me put
Yeah, she's like this.
You're just facing the other way. You're
Okay,
good.
gotcha. Okay.
And then the furthest back right is the romance corner.
Okay, wait a minute. So hold on. No, I need to get this shit straight. Back left is your financial, and back right.
Yeah, is your
So that's when you walk in, not when you're facing your front door.
right when you walk in the front
Okay.
door. Yeah, furthest to the left.
Gotcha.
And back. Yeah, all the way
Bam.
back. And so most of my amethyst is in my financial corner, because amethyst also can represent abundance and like, yeah, and even think of like purple, like wealthy, like when it connects into wealth and when it connects into royalty. And so I have that there, but I also sometimes will also like set my jewelry on top of the beds of amethyst, and then I feel like it just like cleans it out. Yeah. And so that's mostly how I use it. It's funny, I actually haven't done much crystal work, but I'm going to get back into it. But yeah, I'm curious to see what else is there, but I just kind of use it in a very functional way right now.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Mia, what's your experience with amethyst?
Honestly, I think it's one of my. It is one of my favorites. But I have been using amethyst, I would say, during Corona more to connect with my. This is gonna sound crazy. To connect with the extraterrestrial sides.
Hell yeah.
No, that's not crazy.
I mean, it's something about purple.
Am I the only one that's just eating this food?
You got the munchies. That's what that is. There's something about the extra with purple, with the amethyst. For me, the purple it provides the man. I'm telling you, when I meditate with amethyst, like all. Especially if I open my records with the amethyst, Lord Jesus. I'm talking about like I get some messages. You know, I write everything down. So for me, it's otherworldly. I feel like it allows me to go up. Like it's like you know, instead of like kind of looking like this, it allows me. Yeah. It's like I go up and it's like I'm looking like this. And it goes beyond me. It kind of just like this is where you are and this is what's going on and this is how you're connected to that. So I really do enjoy amethyst. I have some in my bedroom. I know some people can't sleep with amethyst. I think it might, but I
don't have that problem.
I don't have that problem. I actually keep amethyst and rose quartz in my bedroom. And of course clear quartz. I always have a clear quartz, something with me, because I like it amplifies everything. But so I don't use it often, as a lot. But I'm very specific when I'm like, okay, I need to go up, and kind of. And I've definitely done some traveling with some amethyst. Like, and so I do have to have a grounding stone because sis tries not to come back.
Yes, sis does.
I don't want to come back. I'm like, okay, fine. I still have work to do, but it has definitely opened up a lot for me in terms of who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing.
This is from tennis.
Oh yeah, you have me.
He had me running the gym.
Do you get nauseated from not being grounded, or is that just a me thing?
No, but I keep a grounding stone around me. I did the first time I did that without a grounding stone. Crystal was like, "Where's your grounding stone?" And I know better. I totally know better. I was kind of like, "Holy shit!" So I do it like when I'm using that, especially if I'm astral traveling. I keep my Merkaba, that bloodstone Japa Merkaba that I have. I keep that with me, or I'll do like a tourmaline, but I really like the bloodstone jasper for my grounding. It just kind of like, phew, all right now, I really enjoy it. And it's so pretty, and I'm just like, I like
yes, amethyst. It's such a amethyst is beautiful.
One of my when I think, y'all know I love jewelry. I talk about this all the time. I have some beautiful amethyst jewelry. Like I remember when I was like 8th grade graduation, my mom got me like an amethyst and diamond ring. Like I really, that's before I even knew what amethyst was like, what it really was about. So I still have all that stuff. Amethyst is just gorgeous to me.
Oh,
and it helps you to move forward. Okay.
Yes, it does. So I would say, So I started to kind of add these affirmations because I think it's kind of cool. Like, how would I try and sum this all up? But you said this a couple times, Jessica, throughout this evening, and it is, I am good enough. And I think that it would be a really good affirmation for this. I am good enough, and just saying it and believing it and knowing it and But first of all, just having the courage to say it, I think is important. All right, so what is the message for the day?
Jessica?
Oh, man. I have one quick thing, and then, I think it's just going to roll. Because I was listening. I'm like, oops. Okay. So when it comes to... That's what it is. Found my spot. Lost myself, and now I'm back. If you have a desire to be of service to people, it's really, really important to pursue that. And I'm very grateful that I had wonderful people in my life, like Kevin and just other like friends and colleagues of mine who are like, you are good at Akashic Records readings. Please share them. Please charge a living wage from them. Like,
there's an energy exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you what, like I used to charge like 20, 40, like so inconsistent, so like kind of belittling the experience, like through the price.
That's me.
But once I started charging $100 an hour, I had 7 times more clients. And so it's like basically I had that vote of confidence via my price, and then people believed it. And and I just feel like I cannot imagine what my life would be if I did not get out of my own way and just do it, because I was so afraid. I was so afraid of being wrong, and that I just wouldn't do it perfectly, and then it would just like negatively affect somebody in some way, and like, just all those fears, or that I would make someone lose faith in the records. I was so afraid, but I started telling myself that I'm like, you know what? This isn't about me.
Ooh.
It's not about me. And that's the thing, is our fear is what makes us self-centered. Self-care is not selfish. Our fear makes us selfish, because then we think everything's about us, and it's not. And so it was the moment that I was like, wait a minute, it's not about me. And this is like when I just used to show up and I just started charging the wage. I just, I decided to take the leap, and I'm like, my ass would sweat the entire time. I'd be so nervous. But what started, like when I started to actually be able to enjoy the work I did, was when I was like, this isn't about me. And so I say extra prayers before I say the prayer that helps me to access other people's records. I say like, God, please help me help them. And then I'll be like, my higher self, Christie's higher self, please help this to be the best reading for the highest good of Christie. And I just like go through and kind of separate myself from it, because really it truly is the person on the receiving end that decides what the experience is going to be with their own openness.
Yes.
And so it's like, as like I feel like almost every reader experiences this. There are some people where things are more broad and like harder to perceive, and then there's other people that you just are able to like flow and go on autopilot, and you don't work, and you just get to like have fun the whole time. And but once you separate yourself from it, then you're really just able to let the service flow through, because the universe wants you to joyfully serve this planet joyfully. So it's not, like I'm good at math, but I always hated it, and so that's why my joyful service is not a mathematician, even if maybe that's the thing I'm best at, but you know what, that's not my way. Like you have to be joyful, because then you are full, like when you deliver this gift. But like I just feel like, had I never done that, had I never just decided it's not about me and that it's completely about the other person and what they're willing to receive, which just helped me get out of my fear, like I would not be sitting here with Mia and Christie today. I would not have met all these like inspirational, amazing people. And like on my way here, I was like, oh my God, like I get to hang out with these two. They inspire me so much. Like I look up to them. They're like, they're the big sisters of the universe, and I get to sit and talk with them and spend time with them. And I would never have known them had I not done the records. Like, that's what connected us. And so like just from following that joyful service,
spiritual tribe together, guys. It's a real thing.
You just innately are good enough, so it's just like, get out of your own way and start serving, because now it's like, I don't even know, I've probably done over 250 readings, maybe more than that. I mean, I have no concept, just tons and tons, years and years of it. And every single person that the records have touched, and I really don't feel that it's me. It's just the choice of the universe to kind of open this portal. Yep. Everyone that's, touched the records, they've come back to themselves a bit. They've come more to their self-esteem. Yes. They've, like, their light has they have allowed themselves the experience of of lighting back up, or at least coming back to their light a bit and letting it grow over time. But that would not have happened if I was like staying all small of like, oh my God, I'm gonna be wrong, or I could embarrass myself. It's not about me.
Don't
and like,
play
yeah,
yourself small,
it's way easier said than done. I mean, I still have ass sweat readings where I'm just like freaking out.
I'm so glad she said that, because when I tell you it's been a couple nights, I'm drenched afterwards. So you're making me feel better. Thank you, because I'm like,
the reading I had this over on the weekend. I was just like,
So for you guys, and honestly, you guys, if you are interested in getting a reading from Jessica, I'm telling you, like I'm saying, I go to her for my readings too. So
me too.
She is
probably due for a reading.
You can. She has a website. It's Jessica Oberhausen, and I'm going to spell her last name .com. It's Oberhausen. That's Jessica Oberhausen.com. Go there. You can schedule yourself a reading. She is absolutely wonderful.
She is the bomb diggity.
And I know people, I'm just going to say this because I think women are so used to competing with each other. Mm-hmm. Like you guys, when I tell you it is so much love and joy to be able to share someone who helps, who helps me, who's helped Chrissy, and be able to say like, hey, like, there's so many places for people to go and open up. Yep. And she has helped me understand more about myself, and Chris and I say this all the time, like, to joyfully serve in the capacity that I am. And honestly, guys, it just for real. So she's the bomb.com. So it's JessicaOberhausen.com. Right? I said that right?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, reach out to her.
Okay. You guys ready? Let me put my glasses back on so I can read now. You want to do the closing, or you want me to do it, Christy?
Go ahead, you do it.
Okay. Jessica, first of all, thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
Anytime, this is joyful service.
This is joyful service.
I have been having seriously the best time tonight. Thank you guys so much.
No, thank you.
Christy ate all the food. Sorry, Jessica.
Man, she keeps putting out these pita chips.
Oh my gosh, Mia, I am a Puerto Rican girl, and she made fried plantains that are out of this world.
Were good.
So they have created an environment of.
But in my defense, I had tennis today, so
oh, look at her trying to make
I was
a difference.
hungry.
I ate a lot of those plantains.
So, you guys know, I do enjoy serving and loving on my friends. I do. It's fun for me, and it makes me feel good. So thank you. But you guys, when I say that, I know that I speak for all three of us, that we are so grateful to be able to give back, and wake people up to who they are. So this is awesome. Awesome. So thank you, all of you, for listening to Two Queens and Crystal Things. Thank you, Jessica, for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Before we go, I just want to remind you guys, show us some love by leaving us a review on your podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Google Podcasts. I don't remember.
It's a whole bunch of Spotify.
We're everywhere. So listen to us, share us with your friends. If there is something that you want us to talk about, hit us up at info@twoqueensandcrystalthings.com. If you have questions for the next show you want us to answer, send them there. And next week, we are going to be talking about manifestation. It's time to get us ready to start, you guys, we've been planting seeds. It's time to talk about that.
Yep.
Manifest your life. We talk about that. It's like literally in the intro of our podcast.
So it's time for us to talk about it. So that's what we're going to talk
about. So we thank you. We love you.
Thank you.
And good night, guys. Chrissy's about to fall asleep. And
peace,
you guys,
love,
and soul. Good night, guys. Thank you.
Good night.